Alright, part 4. I've just finished. What is. Getting tired. I've finished X roads. XSC, whatever the hell that is. And the problem with this game is I don't know how to move. I don't know how the mouse works. There's nothing really apparent about it. Maybe. Well, there's pause. You know. It's P-pause. You know what? God forbid we read the manual. Alright, let's see. Where is the excavator? Didn't I just do that? No, I didn't. Who am I? This thing's safe fault. Hello? That seems to be working just fantastically. Alright, X Scrabble. No, thank you. Alright, Xscat. Yeah, I didn't like the fact that I exited the game in the console. Whoop-de-doo, whoop-de-die, stick a needle in your eye. Try her again. So we're now actually at 170. I'm gonna try Xscat again. Well, it runs. It's not impossible to use. Yes, I really do want to quit the game because it's not very clear how you play. Ex-soldier. Lovely. Oh, this one's fun because you can't actually... I don't know how to shoot, and then the screen's too small. Alright. Another Tetris clone. And this one's reasonably good. But it's Segfault's the STL server. Well, isn't that special? I think. X-Tux I've had on here before. But, of course, let's... share and enjoy. Let's try again. So I have X-Tux, Xveer. Not too much left to go. X-Tux is somewhat okay, you know. My God. Christ. Share and enjoy, journey through life with plastic boy, girl by your side, and you now be your guide. And when it breaks down, those start to annoy, all crimes when it moves and gives you no joy, cause it seems that your hands falling sex with your delicate oil of your Alright. Give up on that junk. XVIR. This is a weird game. What are we doing? I don't know. Library ping, so we're screwed. Whoop-de-doo. Oh, X-zip. This program has been compiled with Big Indian mode, you idiots. We didn't think to tell you about that when the process was going. Alright, so we got zombies, whatever that is. Let's curse his game. Finally, zoom. And that, you have to, I think it's a text-based engine. Okay, so there's a lot of broken games. There's a few games that work okay. None of them work very well consistently with the X server or the SDL server, or the window, whatever it wants to come into. I haven't really patched many of those things. I've basically built most of those things. And it took hours. A long freaking time. But, you know, could walk away with maybe... I didn't count the ones that work somewhat. And, you know, that's the end result. So we have... Let's go back to review. What I start out with. We start out with... How many... Pkgsrc says we have 376 packages available. But
and try to use it. Haiku, we really only get to attempt to build 361 of those packages. With the limited amount of patching that I could do, I'll recognize errors. In fact, let's say little. Let's just go, here's my solve directory. So how many games did I actually do something? 48 games, including Galaga. Right, that one worked right. DD2 worked right. Critical Mass doesn't because the library PNG. There's a Mirror Magic. That worked. I think I even patched that on camera. And what was the big crapware creating patch? I made sure that the source code was able to read sysselect and SDL mix. It was able to actually access the SDL mixer headers. Okay, so that's what I did in my valiant effort to create crapware, right? So when you run a compilation and the only errors that you see are ones that you deal with, and then you try to run it, well, it's Mirror Magic came out okay, actually. Like say Spider here, don't really have mouse integration. The only thing I did for Spider is change it from saying it extern long random to extern int random when the compiler told me, hey, that's supposed to have an int and not a long, It's kind of, so, after very light patching. So what the real answer is even in the POSIX layer, there's stuff you got to do that the compiler will let you go through. You'll build stuff you won't even know it's not really going to work all that well. Or maybe the layer that you built isn't going to work that well. I haven't even built them. I'm grateful to have the little SXDL server that Caliber built. I haven't been able to build it myself, and the fact it's even running is a miracle, almost, at least in my eyes. So, so then I'm going to have more work to do to get these other ping apps to work, and who knows how well those are going to work. So it goes from 376 and to maybe 50 or 60 games that are really worth playing and reasonably functional. I just went through all 179 or whatever the hell number I have. And okay, so why is it, you don't have your stuff pathed? Well, most of the time Pkgsrc embeds an RPath. If these apps needed a library and it wasn't going to find it, it wouldn't even get to the game. It would just say, can't find this library. Okay, and I've dealt with that on screen when necessary. I've done read elfs on the one, some of them don't have the RPath in it. I don't know whether I want the RPath in there or not. I haven't really decided, but I'd want it to know. I probably would actually want it to always have the RPath embedded in the binary. The problem is the compile tools don't really. We're not using, and you can't control what compile tools someone that created some random application out there is going to bundle his stuff with. So, and the places you can get your stuff pathed in this system is so tightly wound, you have to have it in exact place. Boot, home, package, you know. But that's not really the only thing that's going on. There could be system issues. How much better could Calibre have he made the X server? Who knows? You know, until someone could actually point out what he did wrong, and I'm not going to say he did anything wrong. It's really unjustified to say that he's made crap software. Now that binary that I downloaded, he built that in 2009. Okay. I don't know how well it worked. I never used the Tilt OS in the earlier versions of, you know, of Haiku. Bottom line is, though, the GIMP worked, but still the mouse didn't really work all that well, right? There's just something going on with the system not having a lot of power. I don't know what it is. Off the top of my head, if you want to think, well, what do I think it is? Turn this damn thing down. I think the fact that we're trying to use our file system as a database. In fact, I'm actually pretty sure of this. I have another system in which I've definitely replaced a lot of libraries, much more than in here. In fact, maybe I've probably only replaced maybe Perl in here, you know, from the system now that I have write access. In the other system, the copying goes a lot faster. But I think it goes a lot faster. For some reason, I think they've got the speed of things slowed down, because in the other system, when the copying would go fast, I mean, real fast, I mean, megabytes a second, not kilobytes a second, it would kernel panic often, much more often, and have to restart the system, like during major copy jobs, things like that. That's part. It just takes so much of, and then we have a limit of 4 gigabytes. Seems like it'd be enough RAM, or not RAM, but a swap file. But there's times this thing will just be running really. The bars here will be pretty high up when I got maybe 2 or 3 compilation jobs going, where I'm expanding source code and zipping source code. And as you can see, you know, when I go into package library, I mean, it just takes a really long time to count 5,000 files. Now, in other systems, there is a delay when you count that many files, but this just stands out. And it seems like the more I'm accessing the hard disk, the more of the threads it use. I mean, it's already taken up a lot of, you know, a good amount of memory just to open up a directory, right? But when those things are going, the compilations will slow to a crawl, especially when it's creating symlinks for the build link. And if we're trying to keep some really super fancy database in our file system, you know, guess what, folks? We don't have an Oracle backend, and we don't have a, you know, we're not running Xeon processors. They're 50 cores, and we're able to calculate how long it would take to get to, you know, send a manned mission to Mars in 2 seconds. You know, we don't have that kind of computing power, but the file system, I think, assumes that there's going to be enough computing, you know, it takes a priority. And we got other servers that are running. I don't know. The performance isn't really that great, and I'm just saying this as a general feeling. It just feels like there's something going on with the memory. And as far as I know, I know for sure, none of my programs are going to use shared memory. None of them. A lot of them don't, but some of them want shared memory. And I have disabled shared memory. And that's because the system doesn't accept shared memory, as far as I know. Penguin, I guess, seemed to figure it out. I mean, it's just so there's no real clear documentation about anything. How you're supposed to do stuff. There's errors, and you try to deal with them, and it's really time. That's the big thing. There's errors and then there's errors that don't take place, but then you still got your bad results later. With the linking, I'm just gonna say this, that the pathing we have there, let's say you went to Haiku Porter and you, I probably should try this, and if Haiku Porter builds a Mesa with the symbols built in, I'm really going to wonder how it accomplished that, because it certainly is not in the patches. I've actually even used the source from Haiku Porter, plonked it in the Pkgsrc directory, got it to build, and it didn't have the references in there. So if there's some other magic going on in the background that really doesn't, there's no clear place where you can find the settings that are doing the magic to get things to build. As I have it, for the Pkgsrc, I have everything in make.conf. I've talked about it numerous times, and I have this uploaded to Git, and if you look at it, you can see I'm passing compile options or things like that to the packages I try to build. If there's some other magic going on in the background with Python that gets, who knows? At the end of the day, I just don't know why it isn't running all that fast or all that well. My only guess is the kernel. That it just, you go to the new OS website, you don't see a lot of code there. I mean, it's a lot for one person to do, but it sure as shit ain't what you get when you download the sources for the, say, the Linux kernel or the BSD kernel. I mean, it's never that small. Although conceivably we might be able to support hardware, it's really not until now that I'm seeing that there's definitely limitations that are going on here. And some, if we haven't actually implemented shared memory, and I eventually find out, or figure out Penguin built his stuff in BOS or something like that, which is perfectly feasible, then then we're just never going to build much, and if we do build it, it's not going to work all that well, no matter what we use, Haiku Porter or whatever. I could look in Haiku Porter and get the patches from it and apply the same patches, but the Pygame still isn't going to work. But in the chance, and I haven't verified this, I'm not going to say it's fact or anything, but if it was a fact that when Haiku Porter builds Mesa, it doesn't embed the symbols that are necessary to link, so things like Foo Billiard and all that could build. The truth is that the library tool, when it builds Foo Billiard, it's not linking with the Mesa you built in Haiku Porter. It links to the Mesa from the system. And that makes sense. The same behavior I'm having here. Haiku Porter tries, when it builds things, to embed the RPath in every library and binary that it builds, but it may not in some cases. But when it builds, but when it links, it doesn't. That's the kind of behavior I'm seeing, at least in Pkgsrc. I really don't think it's usual. I think it has something to do with the way we have our library paths set up. And I'm really curious as to why we're doing that. Do we have that parentheses A in front of library path just so PE will run? Because if we had the source code to PE, I mean, it would make a lot of sense to change the source code to PE so we wouldn't have some very unusual and very POSIX breaking type of library pathing going on. Between the library paths that are embedded in by default, some library tool wants to build, basically use any kind of change root, what ends up happening, and I don't know if this is true of just Haiku or if it's true of every operating system you deal with, but live tool is going to look in boot system. It's not going to be looking in. And how do you path something that belongs in packages, name of package, and then the version, and then the name of package, and then .self? That's only going to work for one thing. Then when you try to then you remove your library you built in Haiku port and replace it with your new upgraded one, it's not going to work anymore. Nothing really against Haiku port or nothing really against package. So I'm just saying there's really no difference in that regard, unless there's some kind of stuff going in the background with Python that just kind of takes care of the R path for you. You know, there's things that actually affect the way packages compile based on what package it is in the Perl stuff. You know, if it's that way, you can't even. No one can really, unless they know Python, really look at the code, and they have to find it. Oh, this is how they're getting this to build. My opinion is that the chances are very great that the Mesa that comes with Haiku is actually built in another system. There's something going on with the linking. At the end of the day, it's very hard to build stuff consistently. And that's why I tried to get write access to the system and replace the libraries that came with Haiku and put the ones that I built in its place. At least I would know I'm going to link to the stuff I built. The problem with that is, though, if you don't use Haiku's Mesa library JPEG or Glue or Glut, you won't have any graphical programs because they simply will not link. I believe I've even tried building stuff without the no undefined option embedded, and it just didn't make a difference. So you're stuck maybe compiling the libraries as static, and at least those won't try to pass symbols around, but I don't know what the effects would be on. It may be a perfectly fine solution. I just don't know. But there is an example of someone that was able to build stuff that, when I try to build it, it's asking for shared memory. And that, until I see something that wants shared memory build and work in Haiku, I have a hard time believing it was actually built in Haiku. Or or Mesa. And I'd want to know exactly how that's actually done, because, and I don't know everything, but I sure should have tried a lot of things. But the end result's not really all that great. I don't know what exactly should be done about that, or what to say, or you should, maybe you guys might want to try this, when you're doing this or that, when you're making this. I don't know what to say. All I know is that's the result. And it's even more difficult now with the nightlies to build things than it was back in the day. Because back in the day, you actually had write access to the system. If Caliber decided he wanted to put a shared memory header in, one of the boot system develop header directories and just build from there, not a problem. Alright, that's it.